but glad to be here with you. Got a great show lineup. First hour guest, first time on the Robert Scott Bell Show, Dr. Juergen Winkler, integrative physician. He's seen a lot. He's been through a lot. He's done a lot of great things, and I'm happy to have him on. Connected through my friend Babri, and we'll talk about his use as a physician of the Folium products, including he told me before we went to air, the Folium Relax is getting very popular in his patient clientele. So I'm excited to hear about how he's utilizing it as a powerful antioxidant and more. Dr. Juergen Winkler, and we have him linked up at and his website, qfmed.com, Quantum Functional Medicine. Pretty extraordinary, the things that he does there. And it seems like you might not even have to go across the border to Tijuana to get his services down there in Southern California. Dr. Juergen Winkler, welcome to the
Hey, how are you? Hi, Robert. Thanks for the introduction. Robert,
continue sharing your story because it's an important backstory.
Well, no, the story really is that I've looked at medicine from a different perspective, and we didn't have naturopaths and homeopaths in the 80s when I was looking to get into medical school.
Right.
So I kind of had to backdoor it and get through asking questions about medicine. Why do people get sick? What about how do people get well? Is really a bigger question, right? So what has to be involved in people's will to actually do something different so that they actually do get better? And the system doesn't answer those questions. So I was looking into Chinese medicine because that was a school near me when I was in medical school in Baltimore. I could go down there and get lectures and read and learn a little bit more about the holistic view of medicine and get a better perspective. So I've been always combining different thoughts and elements into what I do so that I can really bring about a healing environment for the patient. Like, why do they want to get well? Do they want to get well? Thing is, this is the standard of the standard of care model isn't really, in my mind, is not really legitimate. So I think when you start beginning to say, I'm part of the community, there's a lot of naturopaths part of the community. There's a growing group of physicians that are part of a community that are providing a different level of service that the standard of care really doesn't begin to apply anymore. So I think that there are ways in which we can show, and there's more evidence to support what we do. So people talk about evidence-based medicine. That to me, in my mind, almost just sounds like pharmaceutical. But we actually have a lot more evidence on our side. It's just not published in journals like the Lancet or the New England Journal of Medicine, which we now find is corrupt as well. So, we got more and more data supporting what we do. And I think as long as we can keep showing that we have that data, we can justify what we're doing. And if we have experience, and I think from what I've also studied is that clinical experience predominates even the literature. So if I say I've been doing X, Y, and Z, and patients are responding in such a good fashion, that I will continue to do X, Y, and Z unless I find something that works better. Right. So I kind of got into this whole thing asking a question is, can we do this better? And that's what I've constantly looking to do. Can this be done better? Even the stuff that I do, can this be done better?
Yes. And I want to come back to the clinical experience. That's the start, the observational experience within any scientific endeavor. It starts there. You have an observation. Now, if you can continue to duplicate and see benefit, even if you haven't gone through what they call peer-reviewed article literature type things, you still have this track record of experience and reporting on this. And there are, of course, clinical and case studies that are in peer-reviewed articles. I want to talk to I want to talk to you about, if you don't mind, our friend Babri Oren connected us. And Babri's a sweet man. He really is a nice guy. He's so driven to help people. And he introduced us and me to a couple of years ago. And I'm a toe dipper kind of guy. I'm very slow to adopt something new, even if it's based on some good. I really want to analyze it, read about it, hear it, and talk to other physicians, doctors of all kinds to see, hey, what's going on here? And I'm getting enough positive response that I'm going, all right, well, let's put this into play. I gave the Folium PX to my mom, the 3-prong, the Folium. Here, I've got the 3 products here. These are the Folium Super Antioxidant. This is a Folium PX I'm holding up here. Then the 3-pronged approach I talk about now is the Folium Immuno and the Folium Relax. And my mom got on it in 2 weeks. And I described to you briefly before we went to air. She's in her 80s and that wasn't doing as well as she had for much of her life. She's not on medications and things, but lost a lot of the energy and a lot of functionality. And then 2 weeks after going on the Folium, she got energy back. She slept better. She went out dancing in the new year. She danced on her 89th birthday. I'm thinking, dude, there's something extraordinary. I talk about it as a Chernobyl level antioxidant. Talk to me about your experience, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I've been probably looking at this for about 5 or 6 years. I think I've known Babri since 2017, somewhere in that time frame. And we've looked at that. We've used that particular product, Folium, quite a bit. We use it for almost every person that gets a PET CT scan or any particular exposure to radiation, we have everybody taking that. And so when we started with that, which we got good results with, and we also noticed that people with joint aches, people with other inflammatory conditions would respond really well. So we continued with using it on a regular basis. It became part and parcel of almost every good program. Like we talk to people, they need their multivitamins, you need your fish oils or whatever, you're taking your vitamin D, but you really need something like a strong antioxidant that also detoxifies the body. So I've used this and done some research on my own. My free radical levels will drop when I take this product. The heavy metals that are in my body will get removed. So heavy metals is really an important discussion because we all have them. If you live in California, I've got enough evidence to show you that we all have been exposed to radioactive cesium. It's all over the West Coast. It's all over the fish.
Yeah.
And so if you're eating fish and you are, you're going to get exposed to mercury and cesium, you should be taking something like Folium to offset some of the negative effects of that. And then also know that we're being exposed to thallium, thorium, uranium, aluminum, and barium. Just sort of look up in the air and ask yourself what's being dumped up there. But we're seeing it, and I'm seeing it on heavy metals testing as to what people are being exposed to. So something like Folium is really going to be a big player in keeping people healthy moving forward, because we're just seeing more and more toxicity, and you can't get away from it.
You mentioned to me, and I like what you do too. This is kind of what I try to do, is put it to the test, right, in your own body. And you had taken like what, 12 Folium capsules in a day, and then analyzed what was coming out. Did you see evidence of binding and excreting?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So I took 12 capsules in the morning. So you can mix, actually, interesting thing about Folium is you can open up the capsules and mix it in green tea, and you get a little bit of a better benefit. I don't know if Bobby has told you that.
No, this is great.
Yeah, so it makes the tea a little bit bitter, but I always use an additional amino acid called glycine, because glycine is slightly sweet, so it offsets any bitter taste. So I was putting that in with that mixture. So I basically took like 6 capsules and put 6 of them in green tea and drank that. So I was getting that in there pretty quickly, and then for the next 12 hours I collected my urine, and so we then send that to the lab. So I don't remember the full extent of what we did, because it's been years ago, but I remember pulling mercury out, pulling lead out, pulling aluminum, cesium, barium. The things that we get exposed on a regular basis do come out with repetitive use and ongoing use of
Yeah, and this to me doesn't preclude the use of things like selenium, which we know also can have an effect like that as a powerful antioxidant. But as I'm looking at the ingredients here, and maybe talk to me about some of this, the extract of pine bark parts, including needles, bark, and cone, as well as grapeseed. And these are botanical ingredients made by God, not by man, but collected in this formulation to counteract some devastating things man is doing.
Yeah. So there's an interesting book written by I cannot remember his first name, Cass something. He wrote a book, and he was talking about where antioxidants actually are stronger in the plant world. And he said, if you're down in, let's say, the Peruvian forest someplace, right, in the jungle, they're not really environmentally stressed, right? There's probably some heat, but they've got plenty of moisture. But if you go further north into the tundra, you got pine trees that are actually growing and thriving in an environmentally challenged,
very hostile environment.
place. So therefore, there's probably greater protection in those particular plants than there would be in, let's say, the jungles, right? So if you look at that kind of thing, so pine trees, if you think about it, in the middle of wintertime when it's cold and it's freezing, they're still green. So what's protecting them from still being the color, that natural color? So it makes sense that something that like pine needles would do something healthy to our bodies as well. And I think that's kind of what they really discovered, right? The products that actually are environmentally challenged have greater amounts of antioxidants and are more powerful, put into a product that we can take.
That sounds like something Cass Ingram would write about. Maybe
Cass, I remember I read a couple of his books.
Yeah, he was extraordinary. And yeah, you're right. In this regard, we look at the natural world and say, what adaptive strategies have developed in certain species of plant or animal life, and what can we learn from that? How can we apply that? And when we look at things like, as I talk about Chernobyl level events, we're living in them all of the time, whether they make the news or not. You pointed out, rightly so, the radiation exposure on the West Coast. We've been concerned about that since, what was it, 2011, with what happened in Fukushima, inevitably, contaminating even the Pacific Ocean as big as it is.
Right.
And mercury, of course, is ever present in the environment, but more so since man in the Industrial Revolution. Much less medical use of mercury, whether it be dental amalgams, which they're kind of trying to phase out, but they pretended wasn't harmful, and or injections as a preservative agent in vaccines or other pharmaceutical products, which still is still in use to some degree. And yet, I've always said, what can we use to counteract that? That's why I keep coming back to selenium and other minerals and antioxidants. But this thing seems, again, next level. It seems like you've had some experience with
So
that.
yeah, so Rob, what's really, really crucial to understand is selenium is a really good product to take, as is
Mhm.
zinc, but mercury knocks those particular things
Mhm.
out of the center of the molecule in which selenium and zinc actually operate. So you have to get rid of the mercury to get the zinc and the selenium back in
Well,
again.
even though
That's actually
yeah,
why
they're
when you
used to bind it, but it depletes them, the mercury presence.
yeah, but it shows up in a hair analysis. So if you actually see high levels of zinc and selenium in a hair analysis, then you go back and say, well, what's causing that? You probably have
Mercury, yeah,
mercury,
I agree.
because that will block that, right? So cadmium is also another big one, and
Mhm.
lead. If you get cadmium, lead, and mercury, you really start having a lot of damage in the body. Getting them out and then
Mhm.
replenishing them at the
Yeah.
same time, right? So the antioxidants will pull those things out, but you want to go back in there and you want magnesium, zinc, potassium, selenium, all the things that we actually need, which would otherwise be in our food. It's just no longer
Correct,
there.
and we're not eating food that's
So,
rich with those minerals. We're not eating like our
right,
ancestors. I've seen, again, a lot of overuse of zinc and vitamin C resulting in even more copper depletion, and copper has been
right.
tested
You
almost
got that problem.
80%
Right.
reduced from when they first started analyzing the soil. So we are dealing in massive deficiencies, and that's how we go
Yeah.
ahead.
There's a super easy thing that you can do, and that's called mineral taste testing. We do it in the office all the time. It's basically you're taking those concentrated minerals, and all you do is put a drop on a spoon and just taste it. If it tastes sweet, you're deficient in that particular mineral. If it tastes bland, you probably have adequate amounts. If it tastes horrible, you have excess amounts. So there's actually a ninefold program. We buy it off of Body Bio. We get it from bodybio.com, and basically that whole mineral taste testing kit does iodine,
Mhm.
potassium, magnesium, zinc, molybdenum, manganese, copper, chromium. We are suffering pretty much from a
Oh, yeah.
chromium deficiency on most people because of the amount of processed carbohydrates and sugars
Yep.
in our diet. So that's a big issue. Chromium repletion is like a whole separate topic because you have to spend a lot of time getting that back in
Yeah.
again. Right. So you can actually really simply do this on a monthly basis on yourself, weekly if you want, and you can replenish it with the actual liquids until you get to the point that you don't taste it or it begins to you know, taste yucky. Then you realize, okay, I've got enough of
Have
that
those,
mineral.
tests been independently analyzed to cross-reference levels? Because I'm suspect by some of these mineral tests that they test one area of the body. Like, if we were to see a heart attack victim soon after that heart attack, and took their blood, they would test off the charts for copper. Not because they're copper toxic, but because their body is dumping copper to manage the systemic inflammation and damage and help to elicit repair. So
Right.
interpretation of
Yeah. Right. Elicits more VEGF. Yeah. A good question. So there are enough labs out there that actually do measure minerals. You could do minerals, vitamins, amino
Mhm.
acids, and other things. You can even look at antioxidants. I'm surprised Folium isn't on that. But we use cellular sciences, and then we also use like SpectraCell, Vibrant Health. They all do those types of vitamin analyses, and they do them from a cellular level because if you understand, we talk about selenium and zinc, but you don't measure it in the
Right,
blood. It doesn't operate in the blood. It operates inside the
right.
cell. So you have to actually go in there and measure what's inside the
Mhm.
lymphocyte and say, okay, you got adequate amounts of it,
Yes, exactly.
right?
No, and I appreciate that, distinction, and, we've come to a lot of the same conclusions through different pathways to get here. I'm just
Right.
smiling on the inside and the outside as I'm listening to you, because that
Yeah.
chromium issue is something we focused on for many years. We've been able to reverse type 2 diabetes regularly, supplementing, chromium and vanadium to some degree, and we see a complete
Right.
reversal because, as you said, the refined carbs rip the minerals like chromium out. Our ability to manage and deliver, the energy into the cells and get it out of the stored energy it's
Mhm.
absent. You can have all the insulin you want with no chromium. You don't have anybody at the dock to offload this stuff. So again, it's a
Right.
very critical part. Now, I have a question from our audience about the taste test kit thing. Can you say the name of the lab or the website if people can access?
Yeah. So it's the company's called
Okay.
bodybio.com. And if you go on that website, you go through their supplement list, and they have a number of different liquid minerals, but they have a kit with 9 minerals
Mhm.
in it. And those are the ones that you can order. And you very simply put a drop on the spoon, taste it, and you have your answer
Wow.
immediately.
It
Right.
simplifies it for
So
folks.
it's pretty easy to do. We do it in the office, but it I mean, I think there's a level of accuracy because patients that are like overweight and
Mhm.
diabetic or pre-diabetic have chromium
Yeah,
deficiencies, right?
absolutely.
So in certain circumstances, like with high blood pressure, you would think that their potassium, magnesium levels should be low. It depends upon whether they're supplementing it or taking it right before, right? So you have to kind of, hey, don't take your supplements. Let's avoid these for a day or two. Let's get a baseline and see what you're actually or possibly deficient in, right?
Mhm.
So we do a lot of in-office testing for that purpose, like looking at free radical damage, looking at even oxalates, right? Oxalates are byproducts of metabolism that come out of the
Mhm.
gut, and if those are present, those cause mitochondrial damage. It's very easy to assess in the office as a urine test, right? So there's so many things you can actually do, and honestly, it's all on Amazon. It's not hard to find out. I mean, I dug through some of these things. You buy these little kits. They're urine dipsticks, and you can get a lot of information. Even your vitamin C. Are you taking adequate amounts of vitamin C? You can do a dipstick on that. It's very easy to do.
We're talking with Dr. Juergen Winkler, and he's at Quantum Functional Medicine, qfmed.com. Our connection through our friend Bobry Oren. Bobry is a wonderful man. He's introduced us to the Folium products, Folium PX, and as we said, they have the super antioxidant formula to start with. Then you got Folium Immuno, and then you had mentioned to me that a lot of your folks coming to see you are really digging the Folium Relax. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so it's kind of nice in terms of improving sleep quality and just overall anxiety. I mean, the whole spirit of fear and anxiety that kind of swept the planet. I think the Folium Relax is kind of a nice product to kind of put people back into balance
Mhm.
again. So, and also helping with sleep and mood. So it's a nice little combination of things.
Nice. For those of you who want to
Yep.
get these things directly, you can go to foliumpx.com. We have it linked up. You can use the code RSB10, or if that doesn't work, just reach out to them. Someone, even Babry, might get back to you to hook you up and get you connected. One of